So this morning I want to talk about a mother in Samaria. We're going to talk about the lady who came to Jesus at the well. And this is something that the Lord put on my heart, and He told me to preach it for Mother's Day. And I'm calling it 7 Keys to Spiritual Motherhood. Do you know that there are natural mothers, obviously? None of us would be here without a natural mother. But there are spiritual mothers. I'm patterning this a little bit after Deborah, who was called a mother in Israel. Judges 5:7. Deborah arose as a mother in Israel. She was a judge and she was also a prophetess. So God viewed her this way. And we're going to look at the life of the Samaritan woman, and we're going to see that she was a mother for Samaria. And she demonstrates certain spiritual characteristics that if you are a woman, a mother, these are things to pay attention to if you want to develop as a mother, a spiritual mother in the church. So it starts out this way. He left Judea and departed again for Galilee, and he had to pass through Samaria. Now let me just say this. Nobody has to pass through Samaria. Geographically. As a matter of fact, if you were a holy man, you stayed away from Samaria. There was a route that they took to bypass Samaria, because if you went through Samaria, you as a Jew would be considered to be unclean. So no good Jew would go through Samaria. So what does it mean that Jesus had to go? Every time John uses this in his gospel, that Jesus had to do something, you know what he's talking about? He's talking about Jesus on a mission. The Father has given him something to do. He has to go into Samaria. So he goes through Samaria, and there he finds Jacob's well. So Jesus, weary as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well in about the 6th hour. First of all, it tells us that in Samaria, Jacob is the big deal, not Abraham, Jacob. Because Jacob's the one who gave him this well. Jacob is the one who they say, Jacob's our father. And the reason why they put Jacob as their father, not Abraham, Abraham was the father of many nations, including some nations that weren't that great. Jacob, on the other hand, was pure. So the Samaritans claim Jacob, not Abraham. Interesting. And this is their hero, and this is Jacob's well, and we're told it's about the 6th hour. This is important because Jesus is on time. You all know Jesus goes places and he's on time. But at the 6th hour, which is noontime, this would be high noon, most people are not going to be at the well. And it was true this day. Because you gathered water either in the morning or in the evening when it was cooler. That's when you did your work. That's when you gathered your water. You had water for the hottest part of the day, but you didn't gather it. So Jesus is there at a time where no one's going to be there except, we are told, one woman by herself. It says a woman from Samaria came to draw water. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. In order to understand the story, you have to understand being a woman and being a Samaritan woman. Because Jesus talking to her, how do we describe the Samaritans in Jesus' day? They were half-breeds. They intermarried with pagans. They were considered to be continuously unclean. In other words, there was no way God could clean them. If you shared anything with them, you would become unclean, and you would immediately have to go through the rites of cleaning yourself at the temple. They only believed in the first 5 books of the Bible. They didn't even believe the prophets. So they believed the Pentateuch, but no other books. And they were hated for the Jews for all of their compromises. And they were considered to be heretics. Matter of fact, they were considered to be demon-possessed. That's how Jews view them. As a matter of fact, if you remember in John 8, Jesus is accused of being a Samaritan who has a demon. Samaritans were the lowest of lows, demonically possessed, heretics. And Jesus comes to them. But a woman, my goodness, a woman who is a Samaritan, she's got a double whammy. Jewish people considered women to be unteachable. They considered them to lack spiritual discernment. They thought that conversing with a woman could only lead you to sin. I mean, just talking to a woman is going to cause me to sin. As a matter of fact, looking at a woman will cause me to sin. So just stay away from women is the message. As a matter of fact, let me read you something from one of their rabbis. This is a Jewish rabbi. He says, better that the words of the law should be burned than delivered to a woman. Whew. Listen to this. They had a saying. Each time a man has prolonged converse with a woman, he causes evil to himself, and he desists from the law, and in the end he inherits hell, or Gehenna. Do you get the idea that Jews do not have a high opinion of women? And a Samaritan woman, what? Oh my goodness. So you see what Jesus is doing here. As a matter of fact, the Pharisees wouldn't look at a woman. They had a thing called a bleeding Pharisee, which meant that every time he would see a woman, a Pharisee would see a woman, he was so holy, he would close his eyes and walk with his eyes closed, and he ended up bumping into walls and posts, and so he would bleed. And so when you saw all those bruises and bleeding on his forehead, you say, oh, that's a holy guy right there. A bleeding Pharisee. So here is Jesus in this situation all by himself, alone with a Samaritan woman. What are these 7 keys of being a spiritual mother? You're going to see them demonstrated in this woman as she encounters Jesus. The first is, she is self-aware of all of this. She is not oblivious to how Jews look at Samaritans. She is not oblivious of how Jewish men look at women. So Jesus starts out the conversation saying, give me a drink. And by the way, this is a very familiar verse of Scripture, so a lot of you think you know it, and you do. But there's levels of depth here. Jesus says to her, give me a drink, for his disciples had gone away into a city to buy food. Now that's a key statement. Why? Because there's no Jewish man who's going to travel through a place like Samaria and not have something to draw water with. This is suicidal. So where did Jesus, notice he has a little bucket here. No, he doesn't. Because why? Because the disciples took the bucket into the city, and so Jesus is by himself at a well in which he cannot drink. He is in a vulnerable position. He is going to put himself in a place where he needs this woman to help. It's almost like he's softening this, like almost saying, I'm helpless here. It's an amazing position that Jesus puts himself in. So, the Samaritan woman, when Jesus says, give me a drink, I'm thirsty, the Samaritan woman, self-aware, says to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask me for a drink, a woman of Samaria? Why are you even giving me the time of the day? Why are you even talking to me? Don't you know that if you take this and you drink it, you're going to be unclean? It's like she knows this. She's bewildered by why this Jew would make himself unclean by talking to a woman, looking at a woman, and now asking to have a drink from a woman. What is going on here? The text says that for the Jews had no dealings with Samaritans at all. So she is self-aware. Now, by the way, this story is in total contrast to chapter 3. Does anybody know that Jesus has a private conversation with somebody in chapter 3 of John? Remember the story? It's Nicodemus. And Nicodemus is designed to be the counter opposite of this woman. He is a man, he is a Jew, he is a religious leader, he's devout, he is esteemed and respected. He comes at night and he listens to Jesus, but he doesn't respond. This woman, who is on the opposite side of the spectrum, chapter 3, chapter 4, a woman, not a Jew, a Samaritan, has no status, questionable lifestyle, we'll get to that later, deeply flawed as a sinner. It's during the day, and here's the most important part, direct opposite of Nicodemus, and her response to Jesus is dramatic. Almost to put the religious leader to shame. Here's a guy, high and lifted up, doing Jesus a favor by even talking to him, and here's a woman on the opposite side of the spectrum. And we're going to see how it works out. It's amazing. It is one of the most amazing stories in the Bible, and sometimes we just pass right through it. First mark, self-awareness. Second mark is she doesn't understand what Jesus is talking about in the conversation, but that's not going to stop her. By the way, let me just say this. Never let your ignorance of God stop you from pursuing God. You understand what we're talking about? We're talking about God. You're never going to understand God. So if you get hung up on a question, I don't understand this, and you allow that to stop you, I don't understand why there's evil in the world. Come on now. She wasn't going to let any of her lack of understanding stop her in her quest. So here's what Jesus says to her. It's a little bit insulting. He says to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that was saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. First thing he starts out with is, you don't know who I am. You're ignorant to it. But on the flip side of positivity, if you knew, if you understood who I was, you would ask me for water. Do you see what he does here? It's very prophetic. Most prophets bring criticism, bring rebuke, bring chastisement first, but they're hoping that you will not be offended and you will learn from it and you will grow. She is not going to be offended by Jesus. And by the way, this is one of the biggest things I see a lot of times is that people get easily offended. She is not. She's not going to let this lack of understanding stop her. As a matter of fact, she goes back to his original thing, which was, sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? She's mystified. You can't even draw from this well, and you're telling me to give you a drink of water, and then at the same time you're telling me that you have living water. What? It's a little mystifying, but she's not going to like that. The question is, where do you get living? What she's thinking here is that water is everything. I mean, without this well, the Samaritans can't survive. If you think about water, it's good for drinking, for cooking, for farming, for bathing, for cleaning. If you have a source of water, you have life. And she's thinking, I have a well, he's offering me a stream. I want to know where he gets it. She's open to the possibility that Jesus has something better for her than what she's been experiencing in a well. That's a powerful statement. So we get to the second mark, which is this. The mark of a spiritual mom is she's very teachable and she's always asking questions. She wants to know more. She has two very important questions. First one is, where do you get the living water? And the second is even more important, and that is, are you greater than our father Jacob? Remember I said that they are all about Jacob. She wants to know if Jesus is superior to Jacob, who gave them that well. What is the answer to these questions? Where does Jesus get living water? Well, it comes from him. He says, I will give you the living water, and he's speaking of the Spirit. The answer to this second question, are you greater than our father Jacob? There's only one person that could possibly be greater, and that is the Messiah. So he says without a doubt, yeah. Meaning, I'm your Messiah. You're going to see this as it unfolds because Jesus goes a little deeper, as we know. He says, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him, notice he says give him. He's not hung up on pronouns. He's talking to a woman, but he's saying him. A little lesson here for women. Are you getting the lesson? Don't get hung up on pronouns. Jesus could have very easily said, because he's talking to her, could have said her, but he said him. Interesting now, isn't it? Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. Okay. You'll thirst again if you drink this water, but the water that I'm going to give you'll never thirst again. So now she's beginning to think, is this supernatural water? Is he going to take me to a stream and give me one sip of water and I'll never be thirsty again? She's going with this. But Jesus is talking about something she knew nothing about because she didn't know anything about Isaiah or Jeremiah or any of the prophets. This is what the Messiah was going to do. He was going to say, come to me if you're thirsty. Come to me if you want water. Come to me if you want to eat. Come to me, come to me, come to me. The primary message of Jesus was just, come. I got something. Come. It's free. Come. His greatest message at the temple was, if there's anyone who's thirsty, if you have the least amount of thirst for God, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture speaks about, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. And this is going to get us to the primary difference between religion and a relationship with God. Religion, you always have to go somewhere to get something. Jesus didn't die for you to go someplace to get something. He died to put something inside of you that you never have to go anywhere to get it. You don't need to come to church. You know who you need to come to? You need to come to Jesus. You don't need this church. You need Jesus. Now, I believe Jesus leads people to his church, but you don't need the church. You need Jesus. And you don't need to come to church. You need to come to Jesus. And that was the message. It's not about Jacob. It's not about being connected to Abraham through some apostolic line of patriarchs. It's about coming to Jesus. She's going to get into location. But the thing I want you to see here more than anything is when Jesus says, you'll never thirst again if you drink my water. And then he says, listen, the water that I give him will become in him. Again, notice he's speaking to a woman saying him. A spring of water, or a spring of water welling up to eternal life. And she says, give me this water. I didn't even hear the pronoun. Because what did he already say? If you knew who I was, you would ask me. I'm asking. I'm not going to let being a Samaritan or being a woman stop me from getting this water. If you're telling me the water is available to me, a Samaritan woman, I'm taking it. And so there's always a thirst for more of God in any woman who is a spiritual woman. If we contrast this with Nicodemus, it would have been like when Jesus says to Nicodemus, you must be born again. Nicodemus would have said, I don't understand this, Jesus, but yes, I want to be born again. Did Nicodemus say that? No. But this Samaritan woman is I'm all about it. Bring it on. And again, she's got tracking in a way which may or may not be right. She's saying, I want this water so that I will not be thirsty and I don't have to come here to draw water anymore. I'm tired of coming to a well. Give me a stream. And Jesus wants to make it perfectly clear what he's talking about. He's not talking about natural water. If she knew Isaiah, she would know that probably. But he's talking about the water that satisfies the soul. And in order to bring this to her in a real live way that she could comprehend it, he gets into her personal life. And Jesus says immediately, knowing the answer to this question, go call your husband to come here. The woman doesn't lie. The woman doesn't try to skirt around the question. She simply says, I have no husband, even though she's living with somebody. And so Jesus goes right to the jugular. You're right. You have no husband. You've had 5 husbands. And the one you're with now, you're living in sin with, he's not your husband either. Now, you would think she could get offended by this, right? She could think maybe he heard the gossip. But she doesn't. I try to put a positive spin on what it would be like to have 5 husbands. That's what you have to be to want to 5. Well, okay. So put it in one scenario. Maybe 5 men married her and 5 men died. And so she was widowed 5 times. Do you think anyone wants to marry somebody who every time she gets married, the husband dies? That's the best positive spin I could get. Is to marry this woman means surely you're going to die. But most likely what is happening here is men are marrying her, and either she does something or they do something, but she's getting divorced over and over again. And she keeps trying. And there's a likelihood that maybe the reason she's getting divorced is because she can't be a mother. And for a man, that's a big deal. A Jewish man. So maybe this is sort of working out here. You're not going to be a natural mother, and maybe you've tried, and maybe men have divorced you because they wanted I got something better for you than that. If you can read between the lines here. I have no husband. So what you see next is these women humbly confess their sins and their faults. They're not arguing or justifying or coming up with excuses of why. They're just saying, yeah, that's right. What you're saying is absolutely true, she says. And then she exalts Jesus to the point of being a prophet. She says, I perceive that you are a prophet. And so what does she do next? This is the most remarkable thing. Now that he has revealed things about her personal life, she wants him to give the answer to the biggest question that she has had from the time she was a Samaritan child, and that is, tell me about worship. Tell me about who's got it right, the Jewish people or us. She's more or less saying, I know what you're going to say is going to be the correct answer, and I'm going to be totally submitted to whatever you tell me, and I will change based upon this answer. I believe that's what she's saying. She's saying, our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. And Jesus blows this answer out of the water. He doesn't side with the Jews, and he doesn't side with the Samaritans. He sides with the Father and what the Father wants for worshipers. And it has everything to do with living water, and it has everything to do with being born again, and it has everything to do with the Spirit. He says true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. The Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. This is backing up. She's saying, Jerusalem or this hill? She's like, no location. Rome or no Rome? Succession of Abraham or succession of Jacob? No. Matter of fact, Jesus says, call no man father. Not even Jacob, not even Abraham. Who's your father? He's removing all obstacles. Not location, not connection. Matter of fact, Jesus says he could raise up stones to be children of Abraham. Some sort of succession? No. Spirit. Truth. You must be born of the Spirit to know truth. Then she says, I know that the Messiah is coming, and when he comes, he will tell us all things. Meaning, you told me about my life, now you tell me about religion. I'm beginning to think you might be the Messiah, and Jesus simply says, I who speak to you am he. And so what does she do? Think about this woman's progress in comparison to Nicodemus. She identifies him as a Jewish stranger. Then she identifies him as a prophet. And now she says he's the Messiah. Boom, boom, boom. A+. From a woman of Samaria who had 5 husbands. Nails it. Beginning to see how God works. He's no respecter of persons. Nicodemus should have got it. He didn't get any of it. This woman who's so far away from truth, she gets all of it. I love this story. It's how God works. I am the one who speaks. And listen to what she does. Right that time, Jesus has finished his mission, so the disciples come, and they're smart enough not to ask him any questions about talking to a woman. Isn't what it says here? They marveled that he was talking with a woman, but no one said, What do you seek? Or why are you talking? They're saying, he knows what he's doing. But here's the woman's response when Jesus says, I'm he. Listen, she left the water jar. It's like, I don't care about water anymore. The reason I came here doesn't matter anymore. I met the Messiah. She makes a beeline into the town to speak to the people. And this is the final earmark of anyone who has the passion of being a spiritual mom. They're passionate about sharing their faith and sharing what Jesus has done in their life. Show me somebody who's passionate about sharing their faith and sharing Jesus. I will show you somebody who has the heart of the Samaritan woman who is a mother in Samaria. She goes back to the town. She tells the people. And listen how humble she is. She says, I met a man who told me all that I did. Can this be the Messiah? She's convinced he is, but she doesn't tell that to the men. Could he be? Come on, come see. I'm not being dogmatic here. I'm not telling you what to believe. Just come and see. And so it says, they went out of the town and they started coming. Here's a part that we don't really always see. And that is, as they're coming to Jesus, Jesus is hanging out with his disciples and he has a little classroom going on of his own. They say, hey, Jesus, hey, we got the food. Remember, you wanted us to go to town. We got some food. Here, Jesus, here's the food. Why don't you start eating something, Jesus? We went all the way to town to get some food. What does Jesus say to them? I have food to eat that you know nothing about. See, he was eating. How do we know that? Because here's what he says. My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish the work. I had to go to Samaria. I had to do the work. And me and that lady, we spiritually feasted. I did the work of God in Samaria. And then he says to these disciples, and this is the one we pull out of context. He says to the disciples, do you not say that there is yet 4 months and then come the harvest? The disciples must have been saying, hey, we're planting seeds, we're not seeing any results. And Jesus says, now, hey, look, I tell you, lift up your eyes right now, look up there, look at the field. It's white for harvest. And what he is telling them to look at is all of Samaria coming to him based upon this woman's confession and testimony. Ha! Look at the harvest that me and one Samaritan woman who had 5 husbands did. Don't ever tell me God's can't use. Go read the genealogy of Jesus and look at Rahab the harlots in the genealogy and even Bathsheba. It's like, God uses sinners. You know why? Because we're all sinners. If he couldn't use the worst of sinners, he couldn't use us. And so it says many Samaritans from that town believed because of the woman's testimony. This woman, this Samaritan. And all this, listen, this is beautiful. And when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him, stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. Wow. What a day. What an amazing transformation of an entire Samaritan region. And it all starts with a woman simply saying, give me the water. Wow. What a powerful, powerful woman in a powerful situation. In a way, Jacob, the patriarch, gave them natural water out of a well. This woman led them to Jesus, who was the stream of living water. In a sense, even she exceeded Jacob in bringing living water to her people. She will go down as a mother in Samaria. It is so powerful that on the Great Commissioning, he tells the disciples to witness in Jerusalem and Judea, and he says, you make sure to go to Samaria too. And after you've gone to Samaria, giving them the power of the Holy Spirit, then go to the rest of the earth. The influence of a mother who has a close connection with Christ is of infinite worth.
Thanks for listening to this message from River Mountain Church. If you'd like some more information, visit our website, rivermountainchurch.org.